Hey there, this is Katherine, and I am going to share a couple of cards I'm going to make with this set from Hero Arts. I am all about jar stamps. I have several of them, more than I should tell you. I really love jars. I don't know what it is. It's one of my favorite elements that you can make a card with as a jar. Anyway, so I'm going to start off this card by stamping it with my Gina K Obsidian amalgam ink, my favorite black ink that I use for everything. I use it to watercolor, to alcohol, color, ink, color. It's just great. So I love this ink. If you've watched any of my videos, you know it's always on my desk. I can't recommend it enough. And it's such a beautiful dark, dark, dark shade. So anyway, I'm going to start stamping some of these lightning bugs in my jar as well. And so I wanted to make a card with lightning bugs because it's hot where I am, it's summer where I am, and I have been seeing them on my porch at night when it gets really, really late, and they just seem to come out, and my cat is mesmerized. He doesn't know what to think about it because he sees these little flashes of light and then they're gone. So it's kind of this little magical creature to him. So it's kind of fun to experience that through his little eyes. So anyway, I wanted to use these to make a card with the lightning bug, a jar full of them. So I'm gonna finish up stamping these. I'm adding a bunch to them. I want to make sure it's really full. And then I've pulled out my distress ink and squeezed lemonade. There are these little circles on the stamp set that I'm going to use to stamp the light that is coming out of the bugs. I think this is so cute. And so instead of having to color them, it looks like they're kind of radiating that cool light that they do, just because they can, I guess. So I'm going to stamp these, and then I will cut these out as well. And there's a smaller circle too I thought about using just for a little change of shape, but I decided to keep them all the same. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to mask my paper. I've got some Bristol cardstock, which I'm going to do some ink blending on. So I am going to stamp my jar again onto this masking paper from, I think it's Inkadoo, is how you say it, Inca, anyway, I'll link it. I think it's still around. I've had it a long, long time. But I'm going to stamp it, and then I'm going to cut around, and I will use that to mask my paper so I can do some ink blending in that spot. But I also, you could use a Post-it note on this. I just didn't have one handy that was large enough. Mine are a little bit smaller. So I keep this masking paper for things when I want to do a bigger image. So I'm just doing a really kind of rough trim around. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can see I didn't stamp it perfect. I just needed that line of where to cut. It's got a little bit of removable adhesive on the back so it won't tear your paper, but it will stay stuck. So I'm going to place that there, figuring out exactly where I want my jar to go. I'm going to come back in with the squeezed lemonade, and I'm going to blend all around here. And I'm trying to keep it kind of close to the jar. I'm kind of tipping my blending tool on its side a little bit, and that lets me get a little bit of an angle on the side, and so I don't go too far wide into the paper. And then I'm using a piece of scrap paper to keep my finger from hopefully getting in that ink. You know, the Distress is a little bit of a wetter ink. It takes a second to dry because it needs to be wet so it will blend. And so it's not like traditional dye ink, I think, that dries very, very fast. It does dry, but it just takes a second longer. So I'm just taking care not to put my finger in it. Now, I didn't hit the record button, but I did start by layering around this jar some Tumbled Glass, which is a light blue from Distress. And then next I will come and do Stormy Sky. I didn't catch that on camera apparently either. I was testing out my colors and I just didn't hit the button. But you can see now I've got the Stormy Sky, and then I'm going to finish with chipped Sapphire on the outside. I wanted a nice, deep, dark blue, and it is a beautiful blue from Distress Ink. That's one of my favorite colors. It's like a deep navy, so pretty. So I'm just going to come around, and you can see as I go around the darkness of it, it just adds a little bit more of a depth. I kind of wanted a jar glowing at night out on my table is what I was envisioning, you know, capturing some lightning bugs in there and watching them float around and do their little magic show for you. So that I'm going to let dry for a second, and then I'm going to, I made these little sentiment strips. I'm going to do this in the second card, so you'll get to see that more close up. But I've already stamped Our Love Glows, which was in that set. So cute. But I'm going to come back with some Copic markers. Any kind of gray is what I'm using. It's a C2 and a C3. Just some lighter grays. And then I'm going to come back and shadow that a little bit to add some interest on the top of my jar and a little bit of dimension. It doesn't need much. They did a great job with the artwork in terms of having the depth and dimension. It really does look so realistic, and I think it looks great. So I'm going to finish that off by doing the top part with that lighter gray, and that's all I'm going to do on the jar. And now I'm going to reveal peel back that mask, and you can see we've got a nice spot for that jar to be popped into, and it kind of looks like it's glowing. So I'm excited about that. Turned out pretty well. I've got some foam adhesive that I am going to trim down. Some of these 6x6 pieces I use from Stamps of Life that I like so much because I can cut them to any size, and it's great when you want to pop up a larger image. And so I'm going to layer that on there, and I'm super happy with how that turned out. And I've got this Paper Tray Ink Enchanted Evening is going to be my card base, this beautiful navy blue. But first I'm going to layer it onto a piece of bright yellow cardstock to keep in theme with those glowing lightning bugs. And then I've got to pop up my sentiment strip that I made from LDRS, which is very cute. And I love the font on the stamps that are in this set. There are a few of them in this stamp set. And then I'm going to work on finishing it up with my remaining lightning bugs. The few that I had that I stamped individually, I die cut them, and then I went back and stamped that little circle, and so they've got their nice little glow as well. So I'm just kind of fiddling around with these, and I had to trim down my little adhesive because they're pretty small pieces. And then just taking a second to figure out exactly where I want them to go. And a couple more. And I love that the Stampin Up Dimensionals. Those are the little ones that I'm using. If you've watched me for a second, you know that I use those all the time too. I use the bigger ones and the littler ones. And then I'm just trimming those in half so they can fit onto the back of those little lightning bugs. And then I just need to finish up this last one. And so that is it. I had so much fun with that card. And so this next one is going to be a little bit simpler. I have gone ahead and stamped the jar onto green cardstock. And then I'm coming back with 3 of the elements that were in the stamp set, that daisy, a little bee, and a butterfly. And then I realized that I should have stamped my stem. There's a stem included in the stamp set that I should have added, and I forgot to do it. So I'm going to go back and fix that. I could have masked it like with the butterfly and stamped it first, but this will be just a way to quickly fix it. It just take an extra little second or two. So I'm going to stamp it in there, and then I want to add a leaf for sure, but I don't know which one at this point fits. I know there's a littler one, but I'm wondering if this bigger one will fit, but it is a little too large. And so I'm going to go with the small one. I'm going to stamp that in that Gina K ink, and then I will need to come back in just a minute with my Copic marker. I have a very fine line Copic marker that I save for situations like this when I need to fix an image that the line didn't get finished or I missed a spot, it allows me to go in there and just kind of repair some things, and it has a nice black dark ink color to it. I wanted to use the ladybug, but I couldn't get it to fit. So now I'm going to start coloring. I've got these shimmer pens that I've had for many, many years that I thoroughly enjoy, but I haven't used them in a bit, and I thought this would be a great application. They're fun to use on colored cardstock, I think, because you get a lot of shimmer, but you don't have to spend a lot of time coloring, but you get a really nice impact, I think, because you get all of that shimmer. So I decided to do that. I'm using the orange for the butterfly. I've got a little bit of a yellow gold, and I'm going to go back and color in my bee a little bit. It'll be a little hard to see on camera. You can see it better in person. And then I'm going to do the center of that daisy. I also have a white of this one, but I just need to check and make sure that it's working. I didn't see it obviously on the white paper. So I'm going to pull out my green and make sure that there is some and that it's flowing. And you can see a little bit here of it coming out. When it dries, you'll be able to see it just a little bit better. But it looks really cool once it dries, and I enjoy using these markers in this kind of application. They're just a lot of fun, and you get so much shimmer with these. But I'll link them below. It's been a long time. Wink of Stella, that's the brand name. Wink of Stella. I had to think about that. This little stem was bothering me, so I just felt like I needed to come and finish that tail so it had a little bit more of depth to it, that you could see that the butterfly was in front of the stem. So I fixed that, and then I've run it through my die cut machine, and I've got a paper pad from My Favorite Things that I thought would be great for summer. It's like a summery pad. This is the stamp that I was referencing from LDRS. It is a sentiment strip stamp, and it's a large stamp that has all these different sentiments on it, and so I'm going to stamp them with my black ink. I'm going to use my stamp positioner. It's great for things like this to make sure you get a good impression if you need to stamp it again. And so I'm going to ink all of this up. You can see those little squares in the corners. You'll see why I have those in just a second. And I'm going to stamp this on, and I think I get a great impression the first time. So that worked out well. And then there's a separate die that you can buy, the strip die, that fits on there. You match up those little square corners, and then tape that down. I'm going to run that through my diamond press marquee machine. That's perfect for my tabletop. And I'm going to add this into my folder. They use a folder system for these, for this die cutting machine. I'm going to run it through, and the beauty is you end up with so many strips. It's great. And you could do them in different colors, and then you'd have a bunch of different ones. But I wanted to go with the yellow on this, and so now I get to choose which strip I'm going to use. And before I finish the card, I definitely want to add some yellow ribbon. This ribbon is from Joann. I pick this up in my local store all the time. They usually have, that is one thing that Joann has a lot of, is ribbon. And I appreciate that, because as a card maker, sometimes I just want a very specific color, and the odds are I can find it in my store. So that's great. I appreciate that. And I'm going to put this gorgeous coneflower paper. Coneflowers are some of my favorite flowers. We cannot grow them because we have some friendly deer that live in our area, and particularly near our yard, who coneflowers are like candy for them. And so I think the first year we lived here, I tried to grow some coneflowers, and as soon as they bloomed, the next day they were gone. So as cute as they are a little bit pesky, and they have limited the flower choices in my yard. But we just have to get along and go through life together, and they're very cute. But goodness, they keep me from having flowers. So anyway, I digress. Back on topic. So I've got this gorgeous paper. I'm going to glue it down onto my cantaloupe card base. I'm going to pull out some of these foam dimensionals and pop up this sweet little jar full of summer flowers and goodies. And like I say, I love a jar. So I'm going to add that on there, and thought the green went well with that paper. And then I get to pick my strip. There's Happy Birthday in this one, but I'm going to definitely pick Thinking of You. That is a great one to always have on hand besides birthday. But there's a birthday one in this one, and I'll be sure and link this product below because I have really enjoyed these strips a lot. So I'm just going to add that on the top, and that is it for this card. So I had so much fun using this jar set from Hero Arts and getting 2 different kind of looks with it and doing some different techniques as well. So that was fun. So I hope you enjoyed what you saw. If you're not a subscriber, I hope you will consider subscribing. I love to share different brands and different products and card making supplies and tips and techniques and tricks. So be sure to subscribe and like and share. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks so much and have a great day.